welcome to another lap guide video. My name's Bart, and today we're taking the FIA 4 car on iRacing around the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. Here's the hot lap. All right, going down the main straight now at Nurburgring Grand Prix, one of my favorite tracks on iRacing and in real life. Really tricky track. So getting into the first corner now, downhill hairpin, quite tricky. Main thing here is that we're in this, we're very tight to the inside when we go into this groove, or when we drop down a step here. If you're wide, you kind of get punished. The punishment for the extra distance you're taking is even bigger just because of the nature of the corner. So we need to really be as tight as possible here when we make this step down at this point in the corner where the apex is. So if we can be right on this apex curve, that's ideal. But the other part of how to be quick here is also, I would say, braking as late as possible into this corner. So obviously those two things work against each other. That's part of what makes it really tricky. You've got to push the brake as much as you can while still making it all the way to the inside pretty much, or if your right-hand side tire is on the white line, that's good as well. But past that, you start to lose out. So always really tricky here. Even if it feels like you're going a bit too fast into the corner with that in mind. So if it's like, you pushed the braking a bit and you've got to turn in, otherwise you won't make the inside. But if it feels like you're going a bit fast, sometimes it's still worth turning in. So what I mean by that is even if it's a little bit loose and a little bit out of control, if you can just get the car into the corner, even if it hurts your exit a little bit, you'd rather just make sure you get in early, even if it means you're running wide a bit on the exit or something like that. It's more important you actually get the car in. So quite tricky here. So when you start braking, 100-meter board, pretty much. You can brake a little bit earlier. I mean, the curbs here as well, so it's pretty easy to work with reference-wise. You can brake on the curb. You don't really need to, just the way the distance is here. I would just run your left tire kind of on the edge of the curb, quite soft on iRacing. And you're breaking down into second gear, I believe. Yeah, second gear here. So just trying to make it as straight as possible. And I think some people make it a bit too tricky for themselves. They kind of turn with the road and things like that. But if you look here, you can see that's pretty much straight. So as long as we've got the car fully out to the left-hand side of the track at this point, then we can kind of follow it in a straight line down the hill. There we go. Straight line braking, I always point there, which is my kind of like entry point, right? I mean, call it a turning point if you want, but that's my, like, say, entry marker where I'm kind of judging my braking towards, and then I'm going to rotate the car into the corner from there in a straight line up to that point. So just trying to be straight to the kind of widest point of your turn in. Okay, turning in now in second gear. again, you can see I turn in nice and early, get it in really tight. Don't be too late to turn in either here. Just because, again, the track kind of goes away from you. You take extra distance. You gain a bit more just by being in early. That's where the advantage is a lot of the time here. Is just even if you're running a bit too much speed in at this point, if you have to come out of the brake, because you will have to come out of the brake. You can see here, when I start turning in, have to come out the brake, and then off again as I actually rotate the car in the middle of the corner. Just like I said, even if you're going a bit too fast, just come out of the brake. Just come out of the brake, turn in. I don't care if the car pushes here, you slide a little bit, you go a bit wide in the exit. Just it's worth it. Just getting that bit earlier, you gain a lot more in the entry there, right? So pretty aggressive throttle pickup at this point. Should be a lot of grip going uphill here. Run the car out to, you don't really want to be all over the exit. So technically with the off track here, it's half your car over the white line. So you can be wider than this, but it doesn't really gain you anything because you're going to find it hard to get back to the right, which is more important. So ideally you want to be about here-ish, within half a car width of the left-hand side curb, but I wouldn't really want to be any further left than this. Bring the car back straight away, work really hard, get it all the way back to the right. So you've actually got time to go right and then start turning left. So you're not facing towards, the main straight when you're turning in for turn 2. You don't want to be doing that. So up to third gear now, and there's no real marker here, but there is in terms of you can see the road kind of turns the other direction. It starts turning right, and there's this little crest here. I kind of had that as a reference as where I look towards this bit of the track here, and then look in around this long left-hander. Should just be a part lift. No reason to be fully off the throttle here. You can see here I dropped to about 20%. That's all just to do with, that's just standard throttle control in a high-speed corner of, if you need a bit more front grip, just lift off a bit more and the weight will go towards the front. The front will start to rotate a bit more if you need it. And once you feel like you've got the car turned in, you can start getting control, start putting the weight back on the rear end of the car. Okay, force the car out here. Again, you can run a little bit wider than this legally, but it's not good because this edge of this curve upsets the car quite a bit. So just run so your left tires are still on the... we don't really want the floor of the car on the edge of this curb, so your left tires are still on the tarmac. And then braking, I like to make sure all the tires are on the tarmac here. The braking on that curb can be a little bit unsettling. So make sure we've got it off the curbing now. Braking down to third gear now. Very measured braking here, I would say. So it's not quite straight, as you can see. So you try to do a little bit of straight line braking, or as close to straight line braking as we can in kind of this point of the corner. Brake down to third gear, and then come off the brake. Let the car rotate. Just focus on turning the car. Use quite a bit of steering lock rather than having to trail all the way. And I wouldn't do that in this car. Just focus on carrying speed through it. It's a bit different to how you would normally take the corner in a lot of other cars, where you have to really slow the car down and square off the exit of the right-hander. It's a lot more about carrying the momentum in this and taking a bit less distance. As you can see, you're able to be up throttle quite early here, pretty much at the point where you're going to start risking off track. Because again, it's one of those where half your car over the inside curb is pretty much an off track. So this is the limit here. And you've got to try and abuse this as much as possible. Kind of get it tight towards the end of this inside grated curbing. Let the car run out a bit here. Should be full throttle as we come away from this curb. You don't need to be tight to the left like you would in a lot of other cars. Should be a part lift through here. I know you might think, oh, Bart, why don't you prep it a bit more and then take this flat? It doesn't really work. It seems like it's worth a lot more lap time here with this car because, again, it's quite low powered. And you kind of want to lift for this corner anyway, otherwise you're just understeering through it. It's actually quite a bit better to just carry more speed out of the left, take less distance, and carry more momentum, more speed as we go over this curve rather than just focus on trying to get this flat and really preparing it. So we can carry more speed through the left hander, get on throttle earlier, and just carry more speed when we have reached this inside curve here. Lift as you go over there. If you hold it flat, it'll just spin the inside tire and kind of upset the car. So we part lift. See, not fully, just a little bit, but you will need to lift a little bit. 10 to 15% on the throttle. Let the car run out here. This is completely legal as well, so similar to real life here. The track limit, well, it's a bit weird on iRacing. So you get off track if you run off about this wide. If you run the middle of the car out here this early, you'll get an off track, but pretty much if you run wide after this end of this AstroTurf here, this darker, or this kind of thicker AstroTurf, fake grass stuff here. But on this painted, we'll call it painted tarmac, and then this service road here, cut through here, then you're fine. You won't get an off track, but you have to rejoin before the AstroTurf, the end of this bit. So this bit's all fine to run on, and then we've got to rejoin. We don't want to have half the car off the track here, otherwise we will get an off track, so keep that in mind. So just try to point the car out, get it straight there. Quite tricky section. Up to 4th gear. Don't let the car hang about there. Over to the right-hand side. Braking now down the hill, down long left-hander, down to 4th gear. Not a very complicated corner. Just try and leave the braking as late as possible and just carry speed into the camber. If you're turning in and you're hitting the inside curb, you see I just kiss it there, which is about right. If you find that you're kind of striking the inside curb and getting hit and then pushing back wide or unsettling the car or whatever, you need to brake a bit later, or you need to brake a bit softer. Just anything to try and keep yourself away from the inside curb, so carry more speed into the corner. So it should be quite a late brake here because it's all about the entry. There's no exit on this corner. Just focus, push, push, push the whole entry. All right. Same thing with the throttle pickup, aggressive throttle pickup. You don't want to force the car all the way out to the right, and you don't need to be all the way to the left. Now, everyone's got different techniques in this corner, and it can change lap to lap because it depends a lot on the speed you carried through the previous left, so it's hard to be consistent. And at the same time, again, lots of different techniques depending on setup, track conditions, driver, car. So it can be a little bit tricky where the positioning is here. Personally, I think you never want to be fully right because then you can't rotate the car. And going fully left is not really worth it. Like you don't really gain, especially in a faster car like this. Oh, sorry, I should say a lighter car like this. You don't really gain that much from prepping it a bit more. So I like to be about mid-track. You can see I'm just left in mid-track here, but mid-track. The main thing as well is I don't think it's worth going further left than this. You see where it kind of goes into the camber here over this crest. If you're further left, it's harder to turn in because this is part of the track you want to get to anyway. So I like aiming for this bit here, so you're kind of in the camber where the rubber starts and you can run it up to the inside curb. If you're a bit further right than this, it's not a big deal. This is about as far left as you want to go. You see where this groove is, this lane in the track. I'd probably try to be in this middle lane between this line and this line would be my recommendation in general. All right, with that in mind, this corner quite tricky. Braking not too hard again. It's all about not locking up here. Super easy to lock the front, especially the inside front, because you turn to the camera and there's no load on that tire. So try and be soft, roll off the brake. It's had a really good job on this lap of not locking up the inside. Down to 3rd gear. Ideally, you want to kind of just sit into the camber on this right hand and just kiss the inside curb with a white line. It's really, really, really tricky to get a good run through here and not hit the inside curb. So on this type, you see I've hit the inside curb, which isn't a big issue, but if you do it perfectly, probably want to just brake a little bit less, try and brake a tiny bit less, so you're a little bit later, so you don't hit the inside curb, but really fine line here. More important that you get into the camber and into the inside curb. I'd rather you be a bit tighter than further away here. Because again, it's about dropping that brake rather than trying to brake late most of the time. Drop the brake, carry as much speed as you can into the camber. Once you get to the inside curb, you'll be able to pick up throttle quite aggressively here. Quite a bit of lock on that point. Should be fine, plenty of grip in there. Run the car outside left. Do not run the floor of the car over this edge of this curb. It'll bottom out really badly. I know a lot of people are probably used to running all this curb in a lot of cars. In this F4 car, you can't do it, so just run the left-hand side tires on the top edge of the curb. That's it. All right, keep the car on the left-hand side here. Not really any reason to take any extra distance out there. Keep the car to the left. Use the bit of entry curbing or grating, whatever you want to call it, on the left-hand side here. Main thing I'd say is don't be in line with, see how the track's going this way and it's curving, so don't be in line with the start of this. We want to be in line with the curb this way. A bit more kind of this way. Rather than turning in towards the right too early. So you're trying to open up the corner as much as possible, pointing, like I said, parallel with the left-hand side white line pretty much. And you're going to want to have I try and aim the car here. Again, another corner with a lot of different lines. I've seen a lot of different cars and depending on different setups and things, but I find in this car it's better to do it so you rotate the car outside of the inside curb. So it's not a double apex. It's like you kind of rotate the car high up in the corner in the camber, and then come back down and meet the inside curve a bit later. So down to third gear, you're going to brake really hard at this point, quite a grippy braking zone, but not for very long. So brake hard down to third, and once you get into this camber, once you drop into the bowl, you have to drop the brake really quick. So just watch my bottom left. I drop the brake there. If I hold the brake, I lock up and I just run wide. You have to drop the brake, carry the speed into the camber. Let the car run up here. Again, a pretty good reference is this. You see this line you have for the lane, this part of the tarmac. So if you can kind of get inside that or run just about the top edge of that, that's a good reference. And then as you kind of slow the car down enough, you should be able to drop the brake. And then when you drop the brake, that's your moment to start steering. So it's important here not to get kind of encouraged into turning in too early. So you see I run the car up high, drop the brake, then I rotate the car. Because now I know I can rotate the car, get on throttle in third gear. I'm not going to run out too early because that's what you're really trying to avoid there, is that picking up throttle too early. All right, and again, same thing with the curb. Just run the left-hand side tires. Don't run the floor of the higher edge of the curbs. Bring the car over to the right-hand side. We don't need to use the entry curb here. This is easy flat anyway, so it should be fine. Don't run this left curb again. No point. Just unsettles the car. And I found it's slightly faster just to clip this right curb a little bit. Just helps kind of shorten up this next corner and hook it around a little bit. But again, only just kiss the edge of it. Don't run all over it. So you got the floor running on this part. Just run the right tires on the edge. Kind of keep the car mid-track, reduce the steering, reduce the distance, bring it over to the right-hand side. This off-track here, again, half the car on this white line. Very easy to get the off-track here, so just try and make sure you've got your halo center point, basically where you're sitting in the car, that you're slightly left of the white line here. Braking 100 meter or the start of the AstroTurf is a pretty good reference. Makes it very easy to kind of judge your rake into this corner. Not a very long brake, quite aggressive, very similar to the downhill braking we just did. Quickly down to third, then down to fourth, and then kind of throw the car into the camber. Use the curb here. Again, might unsettle the car a little bit, but it's worth it just because you need that extra distance on the inside and you need to use this curb to rotate the car properly. So off the brake, rotate the car, fourth gear, really quick throttle pickup. Force the car out. You don't need to be all the way on the right-hand side. Much more important to get all the way back to the left. That's the priority for this left. How far can I run out of here while also still bring the car back fully to the left-hand side? Okay. Fully to the left, you see using all of the track and this little grading here as well. Got to use all of it. This exit's super important, so make sure you do that. Still in fourth. Shouldn't have to do any gear changes here. Only thing you have to do is turn the car in and a really soft brake. You see I'm just trailing like 5% brake pressure. It is on purpose. It's just to help rotate the car. So that's just trailing the brake in a little bit, just to help rotate the car without killing the speed. Because we want to roll as much speed as possible up until the point we pick up throttle, which we're picking up throttle around here, around when you reach the inside curb just before. It's quite cambered, this right, more cambered than you think. So if you can get in to this inside lane here, carry as much speed as possible, that's really the aim. So just trying to trail the brake in a little bit, just to help rotate the car, drop the brake. And then once you get to this inside curb, pretty much full throttle now. Let the car run out. Same thing with the curbing, just left tires on the curb. Now run the straight line, bring the car over to the right-hand side. Don't touch the inside curb, there's no point. Leave the car on the right. Position nice and early. Make sure we're dead straight when we hit the brakes here. No point to be moving over too late at the last second. Certainly by the 100-meter board. Braking marker, pretty much 70 meters. Just before the 50-meter board. And this is pretty much the hardest braking zone you get in this car. You can smash the crap out of the brakes, right? So see about 95, 97, 98% here, almost on 100% brake pressure. Really aggressive braking. It has to be if you want to be quick here because you need the car to rotate really nicely here. And if you're too soft on the brakes or too progressive, and then the car doesn't get enough weight on the front, it doesn't rotate when you want it to. And if you are a bit too early on the brakes, so you brake really hard and efficiently, but you're too early, then you kind of hit the curb wrong and you hit the right-hand side curb, which we'll get in a second. So really important here, push the braking really late, really attack the brakes in a straight line. Aggressive braking, down to fourth gear. At this point, eventually down to third, but down to fourth in a straight line, and then you'll start turning away from the corner. See, I've really tried to delay that rotation, right? What I really want to do is just try and get as much of the braking done in that short straight line braking phase. Down to third, Bleed off the brakes. Now the curb strike here, really tricky, but really important. So left-hand side tire in this groove. You don't really want to run the middle of the car. So you don't want to run this bit over this edge of the curb, but you can run it here. I know it's only a small difference, and that's why it's so tricky. You need to be accurate here if you want to get a lot of this time. You can carry a lot of speed over this curb as well. So if you feel like, oh, I'm braking really late and I just can't make it through the corner, it's probably because you're trying to slow the car down too much. You can actually carry a lot of momentum here. We're still in third gear, doing 100 Ks at this point. So if you, like I said, if you're too tight to the inside, it'll bounce up the curb too much. It'll unsettle it. So you need to get the middle of the car here. But the only thing you really need to focus on is getting your left tires here. If your left tires hit here, then you're okay. If your left tires hit over here, then you're too tight. And if your left tires hit this bit, you'll be too wide. So strike this part of the curb. Car will be upset a little bit, but as long as you keep it going the right direction, it'll be okay. Pick up part throttle. Full throttle here. You see I have to lift through the right. You don't want to hit this curb, ideally, on the right-hand side, but you're going to have to. If you take enough speed through the left, you'll kind of be forced to, but it's worth it because you gain more just from the speed you carry over the left-hand side curb. Just do whatever you can to get through here without running off into the exit is the main thing. But you should be full throttle before you hit this right curb, regardless. Either you should be full throttle through it, like I said, because you take a bit less. Maybe sometimes if you prepare it a bit better and take less speed through the left, you should be flat through this right-hander, or you should be flat before it and then lifting as you go through it, just enough to get over the top as you kind of wheel spin. It's a bit of a messy corner, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. It's all about can you brake late and can you carry the speed through, and you can't just hold on after that. Okay, let the car run out to the left. You will go off track if you run over this curb, so just watch out for that. Get the car on the white line here, but not on the entry curb. Definitely do not want to be braking on that in this car. Down to third gear. With this last corner, again, surprisingly tricky just because I think at the pit entry makes it hard to see round. You kind of want to meet the inside white line at this grate, between this grate and the pit barrier on the right-hand side here. With that in mind, it shouldn't be a very hard brake. You want to brake late here, delay the braking, but you don't want it to be too hard. It's like you're braking quite late, so you're pushing the entry a lot. You want to carry a lot of speed in, but you turn in quite early. So the best way to think about it is kind of, okay, I'm going to brake late, but not for very long. I'm just going to kind of point the car in. Okay, I'm late on the brakes, but I'm turning in early. I'm rotating the car quite early. You see, I'm pointing the car in as I'm braking. I'm already pointing the car in this way because you don't really want to go straight here and then turn late. You just want to get the car into the inside here where the grip is and shorten the distance. Okay, down to third gear, and at this point, you should be neutral, not on the brake or throttle. Car will rotate, bring you towards the inside curb, pick up throttle just before you reach the inside curb, and let that push you out to the outside. Should be out all the way to the outside curb here. You can use all of it. And now that's the end of your lap at Nurburgring Grand Prix. All right, then. So that takes us towards the end of the video now. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. And you can also find the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the YouTube video description. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next season. Bye-bye.